I'll just start by introducing our panel today. So we've got Jackson here from Halter. We've obviously got Ryan from the vet. Sorry, this is all very confusing, it's run the wrong way. We've got Kate Dawson from habitable, and then we've got Wendy and Richard from Ashurst. So thank you guys for joining the panel today. I'm going to jump straight in. We've obviously got a lot of first-time Halter maters in this room. So I'd love to start by, for your fathers, just asking you a question around, I remember being pretty apprehensive about our first year of mating on the farm when we implemented technology. So I'd love to know if you felt the same, and then kind of once you did start mating, how you felt. Yeah, who would like to share? Kate, would you like to go on that one?
So yeah, first year of farming, we talked a lot of Halter farmers, and everyone said just trust Halter, like don't tail paint, don't do anything that's going to affect the Halter data. To any cow that came into season, we put her up and we got pretty good results the first year. I think we went up in our 6 week and calf rate from I think like 62 to 68 from memory, so it's just a little jump, but still something. And then our empty rate went down from 20% to 16% in that first year. So my advice would just be to trust Halter, like you've obviously bought it or you're trying to invest in it for a reason. So
awesome. And Wendy or Richard, who wants to answer that one?
Hi everybody, we're similar to Kate. We found it's a process that you really have to let go, I suppose, with the heat detection. And so we would say just fully, we'd invested in Halter, so we were going to trust the process, and we had committed to that, and that's what we were going to do.
And we can share a story.
Pre-mating, we sort of kept an eye on who was standing and making sure those heats came in, so that was really reassuring as well. But I remember on the first day of mating, I was down in the paddock observing, and there was two cows clearly standing and hadn't come through Halter, and I was panicking, and I rang up Halter and I was like, oh, these cows are on, and it's not telling me that it's on, and sure enough, a couple of hours later it came through. So it's probably just going to be a little bit, slightly later than what you're used to, because you're used to its thing, so just got to trust it. And a little bit, we just went cold turkey, no tail paint, and didn't look back after the first couple of days.
Awesome. Jackson, I'd love to know, how's having wearables changed on your day-to-day of mating, and how have you implemented that, knowing that you've had wearables now for 5 years, you've had Halter for 3 years, and previous to that you had another wearable. So it's been a long time since you guys have manually mated on the farm. Tell me a little bit about what happened pre and how that was today with Halter.
So I guess previous to Halter we had another wearable, but we actually tail painted alongside it as well. So we didn't trust it at all. And then as soon as we got Halter, trusted it fully because that's what we got told, same as these guys. And just, dive in, trust it fully. Day to day, so we have an on-heat list, on-heat mob. So we put all our cows we're going to put up for AI in that mob. So say, I heard one, I heard two, green and blue, these ones are pink. So they'll instantly be recognisable when you draft them out. You've got an alphabetical list there, drop it down, put it in the book, and then anything you've missed, straight to the paddock, you can find them, whatever. It makes it so simple, so easy. Anything on there. And also, previous to sort of mating, just make sure you keep an eye on the recovery pulling cows and your non-cyclists, like what's been alluded to today. And definitely utilise that data as much as you can, because it's only there to help you.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there. Do you just want to talk us through how you look at that recovering poorly data and what you do at this time of the year? That's a really important part of getting cow work.
So previous to the day they calve, make sure you put in the calving mat, And then that changes the metric to a first calf cow. They'll come on to the poorly recovery list, if I think it's within 4 days, something like that. Yeah. And then, so obviously if they're really quick, we leave them in the colostrum mob, but if they're, once they graduate to the milkers, anything that's still on that list, they get drafted out at morning milking. We send them straight down to their night paddock, and obviously they milk once a day. They don't come back in till the next morning. And 95% of the time, there's nothing wrong with that cow visually. She just might be a little bit off, had a hard calf, or anything, A heifer that struggled a little bit to compete, and I think that's really hard younger cows as well, just with competition, virtually. Yeah. And we see it in our data with our cycling rate now, stuff like that. Yeah, because we never actually drafted off the recovery for the cows last season, and we've made a massive impact. We don't have a separate mob or anything like that, because for us it's just the pain. That's the reason we're Halter, is to try and reduce our labour, not increase it. So, if you're having to make an extra decision for this little mob of 40 cows or whatever you've got in that recovery reporting list, that's just one way we've done it. And sure, it's like an extra gate change or whatever, and you've got to actually find the night paddock, during morning milking or whatever, but as long as you make that decision early.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And I'd love to know how some of your guys' day-to-day change through that mating. Have you got any special tips and tricks? I love the pink, making the mob pink, and it's a really good way to check your drafting gate or check your bro drafting gate. Because you sure should know if you miss one. We see a pink dot down there, so that's something we implement on our farm. Love to know if you guys have got any tips and tricks or different ways of doing things that's made life pretty seamless on farm for irrigation.
The only thing I would probably add to what Jackson was saying is every day I check the cows that are full cycling. You want to try and obviously get as many cows cycling before planning to start mating. But I look at any cows that haven't cycled 50 days after calving, and if they haven't cycled, then I generally do like a general check to why they haven't cycled. Maybe I pause them, give them better feed, and I tend to get the vet up quite a lot, just to be like, can you please put your hand in here, does she assist, does she have what? So just figuring out why those cows aren't cycling is probably something we do too.
For us, we full AI, both Richie and I AI, and we've got 3 young children as well. And so a real priority was for us to be able to spend time with our kids, both of us. And mating, because we're full AI, we're getting to a stage where we were, do we have a system change because it's a real tie right through to Christmas, etc. And so that's when a conversation with Halter came in on board. And so for us with mating, the not having to do the heat detection is just taking that mental load off so significantly, and probably mating how we do a lot more sustainable through all years to come. So Richie's been doing most of the AI for the last couple of years, and so it's been a lot more enjoyable just trusting the system and not thinking, especially weeks sort of 5 to 10, when there's only 2 or 3 coming on, is she on, or that mental load of picking her. So for us, taking away the heat detection, obviously, is amazing.
Yeah, and especially like you said, the indecisions, especially in the second and third round, computer says yes, she's on. That's simple as that. Practically, we've got a rotary, small rotary. Just to see the fish and collars, we bought a 1.2 metre by 2.4 metre mirror and glued it to a piece of ply and then hung it up.
We have no auto drafting. We have no auto drafting, or we're a simple system.
We can still have Halter.
So you can see 3 or 4 cows, at once. You can also see if they eat and sheep feeding, which is helpful. And so that's how we detect. So if you don't have an auto gate, it's one option for you. Also, just how our day-to-day mating works, we will do absolutely everything that comes up in the morning. And then in the afternoon, just to ease the load for the next morning, we'll do we'll do heats as well, but we'll let the prees go. But we'll absolutely make sure we'll get there. There's one that has come up just after, there's just a little issue after the morning milking, and we're hitting average between -4 and +12 hours of peak. So that's how we do it. Yeah, we do a bit of running. We still do a bit of running. I'll get these one.
Yes, we can get you fit with Halter. I love the mirrors. I think I've seen a really awesome collection of mirrors and different setups and different sheds. I think we've gone to Bunnings and bought 65 semi-round mirrors to put above cups off and things like that. So there's heaps of different solutions. I know a lot of whole farmers have got some pretty cool solutions, so have a chat to them if you're kind of wanting to understand that a bit better. Love to know how you're specifically using the data as a group to identify and manage those non-cyclers, and anything you're doing, especially with those, kind of touched on a little bit before, Kate, but I'd love to know if anyone wants to talk about that a little bit.
We're on this learning journey as much as everyone else, and to be honest, we haven't really been nailing the coordination as a data set to change what we do, but we have looked in hindsight and sort of worked out that our 3-year-olds were probably the ones that were having the hardest time. So we broke out our 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds right from carbon basically, and that pretty much is one of the things that we do. And then we'll generate a report 10 days out from mating, and then we'll go for a seeded program with those animals. And like Kate was saying, all the way through mating, you pull out your new non-cycles that have shown up, and then do something as well.
Yeah, and you're doing something relatively similar, or you've got a bit of a strategy around your 3-year-olds and you using their data, aren't you?
Yeah, so this is our 3rd year with Halter. So our 2nd year, we obviously had last year, the 1st year started. So the 2nd year, we really focused on our 2 and 3-year-olds because they were the ones letting us down. So as Richard was saying, we just prioritised those stock, and then this year we had last season we had a really good result from them, but it was our 4 and 8-year-olds that let us down, and they're obviously your engine room, they're the best producing cows. So this year they're our focus. We're looking at giving, after cows calve, we're giving them B12, just for energy and appetite stimulant, and then we're looking at doing a trace mineral. We do pre-calving blood tests just to see if our cows are deficient in anything, and they were. So this year our cows are actually cycling really, really well compared to last year, and we'll also do pre-mating bloods just to see if the cows need anything else, and then most likely we'll give our 4 to 8-year-olds a B12 again just to get the appetite up. And yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to know you, Ryan. So I'd love to know if you've got any suggestions, in that scenario, and into that.
So I've had clients that have gone way back to, like I said, clients that have identified the 2 and 3-year-olds aren't cycling well, so they've really focused on dry off, like way back then. I've had some people that have focused on a group as they calve, like they know there's problems, they split them out from calving and feed them up. And I really enjoyed that kind of creativity that some people have. I had one guy recently who didn't want to, he was milking his cows twice a day, he didn't want to create a separate one because he had quite a small herd. And so for his non-cyclists, he set an auto draft, so they come to the shed, and every afternoon they auto draft, and they get an extra bit of feed in this pen that he had at the milk. He still milked them, but he just fed them up more that way. A range of options, and the cool thing is you can do it quite easily on Halter, and I'm just always amazed at the creativity of what people come up with.
Yeah, I love that. Another question for you, Ryan. Like if I was looking at my growth right now and I was behind the average in terms of cycling for my mob, like you've kind of touched on a few things, but I'd just love to know like what, and obviously it's every use case is completely different, so I'm not saying go home and do this, but what are some of those levers that I really could pull to help me at this, 30 days out of mating?
Yeah. Absolutely. So you can look at your list of cows that are non-cycling, separate them out, recalculate your cow requirements, and feed them up. That's probably a sensible thing to do. You've still got a bit of time. The earlier you do that, the better. But then you're not able to identify who is a non-cycler at that point. And we do have people that put them in that non-cycling mob until they've had a cycle with, and they drop out back into the main mob. And I think somebody else alluded to that. That seems to work pretty well. Kind of almost better than I expected it to work. And other than that, you can just increase the allocation to your whole mob, or to a subset of cows, or you can put some cows on once a day. Again, that seems to be really quite effective. And I guess as well, you can plan to target your seeders as well, rather than, like I say in the past, the only lever you had to pull the seeders, you either did it or you didn't. Whereas now you want to say, this year I'm going to focus on my 2 and 3 year olds and really get them cycling, pull them into an earlier mating so they're hopefully not a problem next year. So it basically comes down to increasing their energy in or reducing the energy out for the season. So you've just got that much more options now than you used to.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I think, like, if I reflect back on our last 3 years of mating at home, we've tried different things, and different things have given us different results at different times because it was right for us right then. And it's all about having tools in the toolkit to really help you at this time, rather than pre-wearables, hoping for the best.
I should say as well, too, we can't forget about trace elements. They are important, and so do test or have some kind of plan, because again, they're athletes, and we can't get you can't get 80% of it right if you want to get maximum results. You've got to get all of the boxes ticked. So check those out and supplement those.
And that was kind of to your point that we were speaking about earlier, Kate, wasn't it? It's like you sit down with your vet and talk this through, and do you want to tell me a little bit about how you use this data to help facilitate those kind of decisions?
Yeah, so we look at the herd behaviour as a whole, but more importantly per cow, because you'll notice every cow ruminate, grazes, rested, whatever, differently. So we kind of facilitate those conversations, one with a nutritionist, two with our vet, and with a farm consultant. So all three parties kind of give us very valuable information on what a cow should be ruminating, what she should be grazing, and also when she does, if one cow is separate to another cow, not to worry that they're different. And then kind of learning, I suppose, what you say about energy requirements, don't just guess that, actually get a lot of people to help you understand that. So we cross-credit with our nutritionist and farm consultant. And I suppose, just talking to as many people as you can to find out.
Cool. So we all know that mating is about continuous improvement, and it's about tweaking that dial every season. I'd love to know what changes or what your focus is this season, Rix?
Our focuses are to, probably a lot of you as well, but high submission rates of 90%, continue our 6-week and calf rate to 79 or higher. We're really focused on getting our replacements early within the first 3 weeks or 2, and days in milk our mating focuses.
Our main focuses are pretty much the same. So we're trying a different thing this year, so we're doing with Halter, it just makes it easier. 3 weeks of single sex, and then a total of 6 weeks AI, and then just running Hereford bulls, or we're going to do AI with just Hereford bulls, but really focusing on the 4 to 8 year olds this year, because that what let us down last year, and then just continually getting a better 6-week and calf rate and empty rate for our bulls, so under 10% this year.
Alright. And what about for you guys?
Yeah, with the same, obviously. You can have the room probably. But yeah, just the out and out total.
Come back to you.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to go to the room soon, so if you've got a good question for us, just back. But I'd love to just touch on one thing that you wish you knew about mating with Halter for each of you. And even Ryan, you've probably got a few things that you thought about that you didn't know in your first season.
That's a good one. One thing, definitely just understanding that it all happens just a little bit slower and not being too worried about that. So one things.
Can you just elaborate on that? What do you mean that all happens a bit slower? Are you saying, talking about the identification?
Yeah, the heat identification alert, yeah.
It's probably is that there's a lot of information within Halter, which is like amazing. And there wasn't this much information when we all came on board with it. So I don't know the perspective out there, but just like do what you can do and manage on your farm. Like we still have so much to learn about Halter and the feeding and the everything. And so yeah, that's probably something. Just do what works for you, like for each farm, and what you can manage. But yeah, definitely fully trust the process of if you're doing the Halter mating.
For me, it was the same. Like you get so much information that it can be very overwhelming. I found it the first year. I simply focused on cows that are coming into season and my non-cyclers and your 6-week calf rate. I also found it really useful for like the cows, how long they took to have their first heat, the percentage, but also the days. So you're like, if my average is, 30 days for their first heat, focusing on those cows that haven't done the 30 days in heat, because actual herd average is looking at those cows as well.
Yeah, I guess I'm sounding like a broken record, but just do something with your non-cyclers nice and early. Just look at them nice and early. Don't wait to think, is it going to be okay? Just make a plan, some plan, do something. Or talk to somebody about it is the key. And I guess like these guys were saying, I think they were saying to Richard and Wendy that I feel a little bit bad sitting up here saying, look at your data, check this, put all this evidence, but at the end of the day, you've still got an awesome tool that does virtual fencing and detects heat for you, and you can grow with it. So don't feel bad if you just start with juniors.
Yeah, just stick with the basics too. Don't forget them. You can do all sorts of stuff. Spend lots of money, but if you're not feeding your cows properly, you're definitely not. Tarting with the real basics. Yeah, your non-cyclers and stuff. Yeah, completely agree that way. So, walk before you know. So yeah, like it. For me anyway, in the first season, because Dad didn't know what he was doing, and I was the only person that really took it on and learned about it. And I was really, I did struggle a bit, but I just made sure I put my cycling cows up, my in-season cows up, and that was all I did. I haven't drafted any non-cyclers or anything, because I was like, all this info, and I had to try and run the farm as well, and make breaks and all that sort of stuff. I think a lot of guys are probably in the same boat. You've got to learn just the basics, how to use the tool.
Awesome. I'd love to go through the crowd. Chuck your hand out and go to old school. Who's got a question for the crew? Yeah.
Nobody's done that, I don't think. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably just focus on trying to get as many cycling as you can by other means, certainly the cows that are not cycling, a week before the plants are made, do those. But I don't think it would be economic to bank seeders and all those cows to get recycled. I know we've said increase your conception, increase the number of cycles before plants are made and get your conception rate up, but I don't think that would. I wouldn't be confident saying it would pay you back anyway. I think it would maybe just focus on other means of getting recycling, but do your seeders certainly a week out before plants are made.
Yeah.
Probably a question for Ryan. You had to pick one thing out of more feed or once a day for those non-cycling cows, what should we pick?
That's a really good question. I might be, and this is not very scientific, I might be inclined to say once a day, I think. A little bit easier for you to do. In these discussions, I showed you pictures of people getting above requirements, but that doesn't take necessarily profit into factor as well. So I wouldn't want to be telling anybody to go and necessarily buy a bunch of extra feed off of not a lot of information. So it seems to be more people are doing it once a day, and it's quite flexible and it seems to work pretty well. So I'd probably say putting non-cycles in once a day.
Is it a short period for a week or 10 days or?
Yeah, it seems to have an effect, right? Like it's just we know that reducing the energy and in a really tangible way, and it just seems to be quite powerful, and especially because we do it, and you see some cows cycle they are non-cyclers, maybe they're going to cycle anyway, but their number seems to drop pretty quick, as opposed to other times where they just seem to get to the start of raining, but quite a big non-cycling herd. Yeah, I definitely think it's worth a crack anyway.
When this question's been asked before, there's always been the other voice in the room that said that they won't bounce back. What's your take on that from a production standpoint?
Yeah, so Bruce was mentioning before as well, there's an quite old dairy NZ study that looked at 2 weeks, everything on 2 weeks once a day from the plant started calving, and then compared that to, I think it was 3 weeks, and they definitely saw a production drop. But you've also got to factor in, and Halter has some data that goes against that, I think, and I wonder if we might start to see other studies coming out that sort of contradict that. But you've also got to factor in, if you put cows on once a day, especially if you're targeting cows that need it, and you get those cows cycling better, you're going to have less seed costs, you're going to have less empty cows, you're going to have better submission and conception rate, you're going to have more days of milk the following season. I think it'll balance out, and I think that's, if I always think, what would I do if I were farming, and what I've seen so far, I would be confident to do that and not worry too much about the total production of season for those cows.
Any questions?
How do you deal with the bull? No.
I'm sorry. Can you hear that? Can you show it out again?
How do you deal with the bulls without collars on?
Who uses bulls?
They just follow the cows. Like most of the time you're going to have a cow in the season during the day, so they honestly just follow them to the shed and then they scoot out the back and follow the cows back. It's easy. And they actually honestly don't go over the grazing line. They stay with the herd.
We must have hateful questions, Karen.
You think if you're sitting up on a large farm and you're worried about, the same, what you focus on the first year, when you're assistant, what about, say, the manager, owner does one job and then he allocates other staff to do different. I was discussing a little, but someone will be doing the breaks, and you think that'll work, getting it implemented.
I can talk to that, and I think it's really important to task people with a certain job in the app. And I think when we've gone on farms where everyone's engaged, everyone's using it, and everyone knows what the daily job is, that is where we see the best adoption, the best results. It's obviously a lot easier when you're an owner operator and it's just a couple of you, or you've just got one worker. But on those larger farms, definitely if you've got individual jobs and someone's in charge of setting the breaks, someone's in charge of setting the feed for the day, someone's in charge of creating different mobs and looking at those non-cyclers, definitely the right way to go about it. Yeah. Questions? Quite right. Thank you, Richard.
You said you prioritise your 2 or 3 year olds last season. So what does that mean? What to do?
So I put them on once a day, well, I left them in the herd that had been paused, and we put yellow leg bands, which is the way we do it, so everyone knows that they're on once a day. And it seemed to work really, really well.
So they cruise around with the whole herd and they're paused so they have the row, you know, to go to the paddock.
Yeah.
And then pause them before another time to go in.
No, I just leave them paused.
They come out of the paddock.
They come out of the paddock. Because they hear the other cows and they just, this herd mentality just follow them.
So are they coming in twice a day to the sheep?
Yeah, so we have in sheep feeding, and so that's like our most valuable feed. So I wanted them to come in twice, but just not once a day. So it might be a bit contradicted because they're walking, but it seemed to work. And they weren't all paused because they didn't. We had some of our 2 and 3 year olds cycle 2 or 3 times. So for us, we've got 300 cows, so 60 R2s, 60 R3s. We might have had 20 paused.
Did you run them as a different mob and then
No.
pause the mob?
No, you could, but for me, in our sheep, we can only have like a main herd and like a sick mob or a colostrum mob, and we're a herringbone. Personally, I just don't like having 2 rows at the end. So just stay with the herd.
If you look at the energy requirements for walking, it's not actually high compared to milk fraction. So
Yeah.
the extra walking is probably well more than compensated by the walking in the sheep.
Yeah.
So I don't think coming to the sheep twice a big deal.
Yeah, and I think the other things we've seen is in that scenario is people put them in a different mob and run them as 2 separate mobs. It's not a lot of extra work, it is a small amount of extra work, but not a lot with Halter. And then other people utilise them automatic drafting gates and draft out and send them stock different ways after milking and stuff. So there's quite a few levers you can pull. I'd also recommend if you've got like questions, read how you implement this kind of stuff. This is where your aim come in really, come as well. They've got heaps of different scenarios where they know customers are using things and they can talk you through those, and then you can decide what's right for you and your farm.
Can you have auto-populated groups, where animals are dropping in and out of the mob? Obviously, the poor recovery group, right? But can you have settings where animals are dropping in and out of the mob? Like a non-cycling group that the animals drop in and out automatically when they cycle? Or do you have to go in each day, pull it, add all the subtract those? Yeah.
I'm right in saying we can do that on the web app now. Yeah.
You can make groups, but you can't make them a mob. So you can set for like criteria for a group. So if you wanted to set how many days cycled, and then you can set that up in web, and you can see every day what animals fall into that group.
That's a web app functionality. If you haven't, a good opportunity to talk about the web app. If you haven't had a play with the web app, it's doing some pretty cool stuff now. So definitely go home, open it up. Really cool opportunity to dive a bit deeper into some of those graphs, and especially like being able to visualize it a little bit better rather than looking on your little phone. Yeah. Anything else out there? Let's have one more. Got time for one more question. Come on, Simon. Hold the crow.
Could each of the guys tell us a little trick? Like, it's obviously a lot of using your imagination with Halter, like some just little tricks that, not so much mating, but like, I don't know, moving your cows at midnight. I don't know. It just seems like there's endless different things.
Yeah. Got 2 tricks come to mind, and it's you've probably been told this one already, but like with a colostrum mob, you can move their break or allow them to have more pasture and make sure they're all shifted. The other one that we've been talking about is the new features that you've got access to all the rumination and under health at the bottom, herd behaviour. You've got access to all the rumination and grazing data, so you can, before things might get too bad, you can rank cows on rumination, and then maybe put a filter in for a group, say colostrums, and you can be looking at those animals potentially before you, before you can alert and that sort of thing. So yeah.
Utilising mobs. So you can have like 6 or 7 mobs going, so you can have a specific cow. But yeah, she's saying we're going to just, she can still run, she can now be in the lane while she's people, or and all the cautions of pink, and they can still be in the same break, but you know that, oh yeah, that's the cow that I'm going to draft out, so that you can come and do it, or we're doing it. Like just utilising the mob to identify your animals.
I picked up this year that for our heifers, I don't know why cows don't do it, but when a heifer calves, like I don't want to hit it, you can tell by the resting minutes will crash. And so I just have a look at what Richard was saying about, I have a look at just resting, and any heifers that have gone down to 100, 200 minutes, that 9 times out of 10 they've calved. So it's just a little easier trick.
Yeah.
I've got 2. So we've got one of our top farmers, an absolutely brilliant farmer, but really crazy high lameness levels. And this guy really, really likes holding the first milkers on some concrete at the end of the shed at the end of milking, because there's one big girl to go and shoot up the break. And I'm a little bit convinced that that's causing lameness. And so this year he's just getting older now. This year he's going to set an auto break drop a certain time into milking, so that the first cows go out and can have what they have, and then the break drops in. So it's kind of the same thing, but it's not holding cows up in concrete, which is exciting. And the second one is I saw a Snapchat from one of our farmers yesterday, and there was a muddy, boggy part of the paddock, and to avoid paving it up, she sort of set the laneway to move the cows out of the paddock, but avoiding the boggy ring. That was just a clever way to use it.
Yeah, pretty cool when you see some of those half breaks, we call them, and how people utilise them to mitigate damage.
Definitely the total pasture data, especially on the unlimited package, just gives you a daily insight into where your cows are going, what they're eating, total allocation, all goes back to everything we said today, I think, about just feeding them properly. But you'll be amazed at what your cows actually require, I think, when you look at the app, because a lot of the farms are underfeeding the cows a lot, I bet. Then you go off a colostrum cows, 25 kilos or whatever, yeah, it's a lot of, they never eat that, but if you offer it to them, I bet they'll give it a good nudge. Yeah. And just look at stuff, look at it as much as you can. Like on your first year, you feel like, bloody hell, I'm already having a farm, and also look at all this data as well. And it is overwhelming, and even now, I'm not probably utilising it as much as what I should be, but it's the same thing. You've got to farm as well. It's just a tool. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to the 5 of you. To our other presenters, thank you so much. I hope you have found today valuable, and it's great to see you all, and thank you very much for being great customers of ours. We really appreciate it. Thank you.